Welcome to our webinar today, everybody. We've got Philip Cortez, who heads up training and development here at BuzzBoard. You feel free to jump in with some questions. You can throw it in the chat, or you can just jump in on audio. It might be a bit of a lag sometimes on Zoom that we don't hear you right away, so just be a little bit patient if you jump in on audio. With your questions, we'll be happy to answer those. If you'd like a one-on-one demonstration, you can contact me, just message me through the chat or email me afterwards. We can get you into a one-on-one, highly tailored demonstration for you as well, if you like. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Philip to launch the demo and get into it.
Awesome. Thanks, David. And everybody, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for joining us today to learn a little bit more about BuzzBoard, specifically BuzzBoard Ignite. And, I'm going to talk about stories, right? I mean, because that's kind of what an engagement platform helps us do. But in the spirit of story, I'm going to tell you a quick one. I remember about 10 years ago when I first started using BuzzBoard, because BuzzBoard was actually born in 2014-ish, right? Maybe a little before that. I came on board within that first year, and it was pretty interesting because what happened was it was the way it was described to me at first when I first came into BuzzBoard. I'm going to pull up a profile here, a pull service. This is a small business here in El Paso, where I am. And when it was described to me for the first time, they said it was a sales enablement platform. That's what it was described to me at first. And I thought, okay, sales enablement. So it's going to help me with my sales. And they said, yeah, well, you know what? We're going to be able to give you a lot of good information, like advertising signals, reviews, what's going on with social media, their local business presence. So essentially, it's that digital marketing spectrum all across the board. BuzzBoard wants to tap into different data sources and kind of help us with that, right? I think the issue that I maybe initially had and what other people may have had from an experience standpoint was that, okay, sales enablement. So it's going to help me identify problems along this digital marketing spectrum. And that's really nicely illustrated right down here as I look at that key segments of the digital marketing spectrum. But what I figured out and what I quickly, realized was that rather than like the data, because yeah, the data is great and I loved it, but Umesh Tibrewal a long time ago said, our founder, he said, it's the people who can tell the best stories around the data. Those are the people that are going to be the most successful with our platform. And I never forgot that. In fact, I've stolen it from him. And I do say that a lot. I'm going to say that again on this call. The people that tell the best stories around the data are the ones that are most successful with our data. Because really, I mean, in a sales environment, when you take that kind of approach or that mentality to the field and you start presenting anything data-driven, our job is to help connect to the plumber or to, in this case, the pool service person, the doctor, the lawyer. It doesn't matter. Our job is to take this important information and we have to make it in such a way when we're conveying this information and talking about implications and gaps in marketing and things like that. It's the ones that tell the best stories in a real world way, in a practical way to make that connection. That's when I found that I was at my most successful when I was testing this platform out and generating revenue in the field before ultimately joining BuzzBoard full time in 2014. And I haven't looked back from there. So I want everybody to really keep that in mind. And I think what I'm most proud of over the last 10 years as we've really developed this platform is it's staying true to what Umesh said, telling stories around data. Well, we have great assets now within this platform that are really designed to do that. So it's not just me left to my own devices and interpreting data down here and finding stories, but now BuzzBoard is really doing a great job in supporting the data with great context, with great engagement or content. And we've actually added a tab here called content that's going to help us out. So on this short demo, we don't want to take up too much of your time. I definitely want to point out, and Steve, David's going to be able to chime in, and anybody please ask questions as I go along. I'm going to point out some great engagement opportunities, some of these digital assets that open the door for really impactful conversations and really help us on our way. And so once we add profiles or businesses into BuzzBoard, and it's really easy. I mean, it's as easy as going to a website and utilizing our Chrome extension right over here, just like that. And, here's a good example of data and telling stories, okay? Oftentimes we find ourselves here. In my old life, when we want to size somebody up and do some initial research, we go to a website or we search them out. And that's where the fact finding really starts for us. And if they're not appearing on page 1, well, that's an insight for us, right? So like, when we find that business, so Hope, as an example, if you were looking for my business and you wanted to Google my business name and you didn't find me within the first 1 or 2 pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the insight. What's the story behind that? What's the why or the implication? What would you tell me then as the business owner, as an example? Not to put you on the spot, but I will.
Well, I would just assume that they're a small mom and pop who have not embraced the world of digital marketing at all.
Right.
At the
Yeah.
very least, they have a website, and then that's probably as far as they've gotten.
Okay. And they can probably use my help, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, when we land on their page, let's just assume that this is the page. I mean, it's lacking, for lack of a better word, it's lacking in a lot of things here. Okay, from a look standpoint, from a data and information standpoint, all that. I like to look at stuff like this right here, this not secure piece. And this could be an e-com site for all we know. Or they could be trying to get me to put my email address in. This is not a secure site. So good luck getting me to do anything on a site that's not secure today. And so, yeah, that's going to be something that I'm going to share with them ultimately. But see, that's an example right there of me telling a story around data that I'm looking at. Okay. And as we use that Chrome extension and get this good information, I'm now given a summary of a business. That's giving me the engagement opportunity. It's helping me find that context that I really need, and all the way down through, so that I can start coming in and looking at their website SEO. I already know it's not the greatest, okay, but now I've got an analysis that's driven by AI that's going to help me tell that story around this data that I can start leaning on now if I want to start leveraging for the most impactful conversations that I can have. We have an analysis for digital advertising that's going to help me. Social media, AI-driven analysis based on their activity down here and what they're doing. If I wanted to go into their YouTube channel just to see how much they believe in video and how active they are, I can absolutely click right there and go to their website or to their YouTube channel and ask them a very fundamental question. How is this making you money? Love your content. What are you doing to generate revenue with this content on this platform? Okay. So telling stories around the data, that's what we want to be we want our users to be really, really good at that. And in order for you to be really, really good with that, we want to make sure that we're providing you with the assets that are going to make your life a little bit easier. Okay. So we talked about that summary piece. David, I don't know about you, but when you've made a SWOT analysis before in your professional career, give or take, how long does that normally take you?
Oh, I mean, it's measured in hours. It can depend on how thorough you want to be or how hard it is to find information, but it's absolutely measured in hours, right?
Yeah.
Hours of work. It's starting the research, gathering the raw data, and then trying to filter it, and then what deserves to be on the final product, the SWOT presentation. It's a lot of work.
Awesome. And for anybody else on the call, would you really agree with that? Are you currently doing this in your professional life for your prospects or for your current clients? Are you making SWOT analysis and making that a part of your process?
Yep, we do.
Good
Absolutely.
deal. Yeah, awesome. You know, and the cool thing about BuzzBoard is that the second you come in and you add a business into the platform, what happens is before we give you that number, in this case, it was a 30 something, what we're doing in real time is we're crawling across the digital marketing spectrum. I mean, we're connected through a lot of APIs, a lot of different data points that we're pulling in from so that we can holistically look at this business and start making good correlations. And I love the way it's executed or shown here, displayed here in the platform with this graph, because it's pretty intuitive. It's intuitive for me. More importantly, I think it's really intuitive for our prospects that we're sharing this information with. And this essentially tells us that, listen, I need to help you holistically. I have to look at the key segments of the digital marketing spectrum, score them out so that I can come up with that overall digital health score from 0 to 100 as we're pulling that information in. That's step one of our process, though. That's where we used to stop. But now we've added that second step. And because of the data that we're pulling in, because of these insights, well, then that's when we want to consider this ginormous chat GPT prompt, right? So no more sub prompting or anything like that. We're taking all of this data that we're pulling into every single profile. And we've got millions of them in our database that we update every 30 days. I think it's like 24 million plus this time around. And it's called personalized content. It's all based off of what's happening with this business and this business only, not full services as a category and it's cookie cutter. That's not how it works. We're taking this data that's driven from the API connections that we have. And then once we have that information, then we're customizing a SWOT analysis. You're going to get that in about a minute-ish after we've added that score. It's not a long wait. And so David talked about hours and a lot of research. And more importantly, to our prospects, we're talking about a lot of money that they're probably spending as well. And we're able to present this. And so how do we leverage it, right? Well, you know, I can always come in and say, hey, Ty, thanks for meeting with me. I really appreciate it. Listen, in my research with your business, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've created a SWOT analysis for you. And I hope that saves you some time and money because businesses do pay money for this. And in my research, I'd love to talk about some of your strengths. In fact, I'm really impressed with some of these strengths that you have available to you. But it would be really helpful if I can come in and maybe start letting you know about potential threats that you may or may not be aware of. We could talk about that and ways we can combat that as well. So this is what we're doing. The bottom line here is that we're providing immediate value when we start leveraging assets that are automatically really created for us 100 times over. However many businesses you want to add into the platform, we're going to do that for them. And we're going to do that for you. And I think that immediate value is what helps separate a BuzzBoard user from other people that, you know, your competitors that are trying to vie for the same marketing dollars from this specific company that you are. All right. Any questions to that? And again, you can utilize that chat window. You can interrupt me. I am totally fine with getting interrupted. But yeah, we want to make sure that we're able to copy to a clipboard, or if I go into my content piece down here, I'm going to be able to download this as an asset right down over here. So let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. I'm going to download that now. It's not going to take long at all. And of course I say that, and that's where I'm 100% dependent on my Wi-Fi at this point. David had to reboot his computer like 2 minutes before the call, and that's it happens. But here it is, right on the fly, in real time on this call. Here they are, and of course we white glove a lot of this stuff. This could have your logo on it. It just happens to have my BuzzBoard logo on it right here. But here's that SWOT analysis, and it's immediate value, something that you can bring and and start discussing and really start the engagement. And that's why I love a lot of the assets that we're starting to bring to the table now, is because they're really designed for not just to position myself as the consultant, right, that did a lot of the work and wanted to have a more impactful conversation with you. I think it's also really important, as everybody on the call knows, to have them engage with us, them being the prospect or our current client, to engage with us and make this as much of a two-way conversation. It's a two-way street that builds trust. And so if we're willing to go the extra mile to do something like this for them, then what else is BuzzBoard able to help us out with, right? Well, you know, from a reporting standpoint, I absolutely love the fact that we can start helping, not just from a contextual standpoint. We could click on any one of these cues here, and let's just say I wanted to present some ideas for improving the prospect's business that I can discuss with them. Awesome. Clicking on that right there and hitting submit is going to allow me to, again, utilize the data that I have behind me and my services, my product and services that I'm leading with or that I have in my arsenal. It's going to now come up with good content for me so that I can present some of those ideas for improving the prospect's business that I can discuss with them. And here it is. Okay, so on page 1, there's that SWOT analysis. That's something that popped up automatically for us. But here's my page 2. It didn't take too long on this call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bullet points, 6 ideas for improving their business that I can discuss with them. And so now it's helping me with my story. So whatever direction I want to go, then I can. If I want to talk SEO and I'm really, really good at that, here it is. Here's some good ideas that I can present. So let's go into the details real quick and let's contrast a little bit, right? Because in my old life, when I came in and I wanted to have that SEO conversation, it's a lot of information here that I might not have known a lot about 10 years ago. And I would have to come in and I like BuzzBoard from a learning standpoint as well. If I wanted to, if I didn't know what this was, then BuzzBoard still allows us to come in and here's value. All right. It's the definition, but now I've got about the test. Why do we check for it? How do we check for it? What can I do about it? So that's awesome. So in my old life, I would come in and I would look at some of the red X's and I would find out what the implications, what is it, first of all, what does it mean? And the why behind it, right? And I love the fact that BuzzBoard can help me do that. But really quickly, now I can just come in and I can say, oh, all right, this is what I can say based on the data, based on the information that I have. So this is awesome for me to make my life a little bit easier. Because, truth be told, it's a tough gig, sales. We all know this. And so we want this thing to roll downhill as quickly as we possibly can get it, to make our lives a little bit easier. So with any of these cues, simply by clicking on them and hitting submit, that's going to produce the outcome or the output right here. This would be our data in, this is our data out, or the why. And we're able to come in, we can download that as well. We can copy that to a clipboard. This is really a nice asset for me to have. Same with conversation starters. We're going to start you off with some of those here as well. But again, in the spirit of giving us more, the same rule applies. What we've done here is we've really synthesized a lot of feedback from the field, right? People who use our platform now, we ask them, hey, what do you need to get that conversation going? What do you want to know? And we really synthesized a lot of those responses and we came up with what we call cues. So it's a closed environment. We're not going to be able to come in and prompt anything through a ChatGPT window or something like that. But this is going to give us exactly what we're looking for based on user feedback. And once clicked, as we did with conversation starters or with context, the conversation starters will come into play as well. And as I mentioned before, I do love the fact that now my products and services can be added into the mix. So when people are onboarded and they start using BuzzBoard, we're going to ask you for your solution set, for your toolbox, right? We want to know what solutions you are offering, and more importantly, the names of those solutions, so that we can inject that into the conversation up here, into the output. Okay.
Hey, Philip.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a question in the chat, and you're perfect to speak to it because you do so much of the training. How long does it take somebody generally to become proficient? And I mean, I know the answer is kind of open-ended because like it depends on how deep you want to go, but um, from purchase onboarding to becoming proficient to using this on your own, how long does it take?
It doesn't take long at all. I do believe that I was a really good example of from a use case standpoint, because I came from the world of marketing like David. But 10 years ago, as you know, David, marketing was a lot different. I mean, I was more on the creative services side of the business, coming from print. And so fulfillment, creative services, heading up that department. And so they essentially, what happened is they took somebody who had no idea or didn't really have a lot of sales experience anyway, to use a platform and test it out. It took me a little bit. I mean, not, to be completely transparent, but on a scale of 1 to 10 with my digital savviness, 10 being the best, I was definitely a -2. And I would say a couple of days of just getting in here, navigating, understanding, and learning. Like with anything, it's going to take some effort on my end. I think some people think platforms like this, or any platform, are going to help them do their job for them. We have to put in a little effort with this as well. But I think once you start getting that navigation down, I've seen people use this platform after one of my trainings, and that afternoon, they're building their own lead lists. They're setting up all their assets that's happening in real time for them. And they're really able to start engaging from day one. And like with anything, the more you use this platform, the better off you're going to be. The analogy that we do like to use here at BuzzBoard is it's your gym membership. If you don't use the gym membership, you're not going to get the results that you're ultimately looking for, right? And so got to use it. BuzzBoard works the same way. And the more you use it, the more people really become proficient with it from a navigation standpoint. And yeah, that's what I'll say. So I would say days, really, if that. I think people can really start using it very, very quickly. It's a great question.
Great.
Awesome. And so lastly, on the content piece, before we get into some of these other awesome assets here, is the ability to email. And I do feel that we've done a pretty good job when it comes to deduping work. We are native to Salesforce, so a lot of and other CRMs, right? So a lot of the information that we want to put in here, if we're going to send out any emails, then that can absolutely be mirrored or duplicated in your CRM if you have one. We do have integration specialists that help create fields and sync up in the truest sense. And so people do appreciate the fact that they can come in, again, input, output, and say, yeah, I want emails that are 150 words. I want them to be, actually, I want them to be humorous if I wanted that, right? We have different ways of tone for the email to change that tone up. And again, we can add reporting in here. We can intermix products into this. But once generated, then that's what BuzzBoard's going to do. We're going to start generating some email that you can absolutely send from the platform itself, or you could copy to your clipboard. I like the fact that we can come in as well, go into settings, and we can configure our email. So right now mine is set to my Gmail, and you can configure to Outlook, so that anything that you do within the platform is mirrored in your email platform of choice. And generally speaking, these are the two big ones that a lot of people use. Some people just copy and paste, which is fine. Okay, that's more than fine. They can definitely do that. But the ability to generate the content anyway in real time is pretty strong. I mean, for some people, generating an email takes a lot of time. And imagine if you have 20 clients and you want to send out an email, can't be cookie cutter. The cool thing about this is that because it's driven by the data for this business and this business only, then it's going to be reflective each and every single time if I want to, copy and paste some of these emails here. We can also send cadences through BuzzBoard and create the cadence so that we can customize when we want to deploy emails. Is it after the second day? We can customize that if we wanted to. And further training and a deeper dive in this area, we're happy to help you with that and make sure that you're proficient in leveraging this key feature within BuzzBoard.
Hey, Philip, another question from the chat.
Sure.
Parameters to define SMB, company size, employees, revenue, and then a question, how folks are using the Teams deployment of Ignite.
Well, I mean, as far as what is an SMB and the size, I mean, that I guess that varies, right? Small to medium-sized businesses, that's our specialty. We don't deal with a lot of enterprise. I mean, because enterprise, sometimes these businesses are too big, and depending on where you're coming from, what shop you're working in, you might not want to reach big enterprises or be able to anyway. But we feel that we're really good with the SMB space. And, it's defined a little bit when we start prospecting. And
yeah, well, there's kind of a couple ways. So by all means, show the filters so folks can filter on those numbers there. But generally, sort of at BuzzBoard intergalactic corporate headquarters, we think in terms of employee size, right? Definitely at 1,000 and up, that's clearly enterprise. And we leverage the US SBA administration definitions of 1 or 2 employees, solo entrepreneurs. Up through 500, and then it gets a little bit gray, 500 employees and up, but definitely 1,000 employees and up, we would say that's no longer in the SMB space. But Philip can show you the filters in the product.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's employee size here. We have an area called firmographics. So if I wanted to start my prospecting search and I knew that, let's just say I was in recruitment and I was looking for businesses that are hiring, well, then we can absolutely do that here and say, yep, I want the ones that are hiring. So I'll toggle this way. And if I want open positions, if they have over 500 open positions, probably they're going to use Monster. Okay. I've heard that from the field as well, but you know what? I got a sweet spot and I want the size of the business to be X over here and a revenue. And I like the ones that are hiring, I don't know, between 20 and 100 positions. I can really help them with my solutions. I'm really good at meeting those types of businesses, right? So this is a good way, both of looking at SMBs and what we're looking at here. And of course, your ability to go target them, that's really important based on what you're selling. And that's just a recruitment definition as well. And then I guess the second part of the question are how are teams using Ignite?
Yeah. How do you deal with teams using the service? Because we have I think Mark's referring to the packages we have on pricing, right? Seller teams, so on.
Yeah.
It's really more just sorry guys, didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to see this ahead. And you guys showed me the criteria that you use for the small and medium businesses. And I appreciate that explanation of how you go about delineating those factors, which is really important, I think, just for me to understand how that works. And I think you've got a good answer for that. With regards to teams, I see this in a lot of ways that you guys are showing here. A lot of usages is not only developing pitches and things along those lines in your kind of in your immediate diagnostic work, right? When somebody approaches you and you don't know what's going on, this is a great way to get behind the curtain and go like, well, this is what I can see. Because oftentimes we talk to clients, they don't know what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong. And so this kind of backdoor analysis of this is, something that's pretty objective. This is great. But then also from a team standpoint, what I was saying is kind of benchmarking how you are performing, like for clients that you are handling right now. I just wanted to understand that. And again, that might be not for this particular conversation. It sounds like you have a team's capability, which is good, but maybe people who aren't involved with the sales aspect of things, but more in the benchmarking and the maintaining a certain performance amount. That's what I wanted to know there, but it sounds like you have it. So you don't need to speak more to it. It sounds like you guys have the capabilities, which is what I was looking for.
Yeah, and we do. Mark, just, absolutely we do, right? And so it doesn't, I've seen situations where, okay, what we can do for teams is that, let's say you have 10 people, they all have their BuzzBoard account, but you do have a partner admin, somebody who's in charge of oversight. So that if I was coming in and I was going to start prospecting and building lead lists for people, then what I can do is I can say, all right, I want this one. This is a single account with nobody under me, but in that scenario, this would be assignable. There would be a little option here to assign it to somebody on your team. And then so once that happens, the oversight really starts, because once I come in and I have oversight of everybody's account and I know who owns it down here, who's the profile owner. Now I know when it was generated and when we regenerated that. When did the user regenerate this to use it? Okay, and so we do have usage reports to help monitor that.
Yeah.
And then from a score monitoring standpoint, there's the option to regenerate the profile. In training, Mark and everybody, what we do is we always recommend that, this business right here, as everybody knows, in a perfect world, is going to talk to us right after this call, right after we called them and set the appointment today, right? But that doesn't happen. A lot of the times they kick the can down the road and it's next quarter and we're really busy and we've heard all the excuses. So I can't go to them with September 23rd data. That's when this data was generated. We all know that changes. So the ability to come in and regenerate starts the process over. We're going to come in and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm just going to say yes. And once I hit regenerate there, then we're going to start the process over. We're going to go back into those data sources. We're going to tap in and get the latest and greatest information on this business. P stands for pending. Takes about 45 to 90 seconds, but it allows you to come in here and say, hey, Philip, I regenerated this for you because I know you've got your appointment this week. So I want you to go with fresh data. And now let's just take one more look at what we're doing. Another area that we can do that for is the competition. So I'll go into another profile. I'll go into the same one that we were looking at before, this pool, these pool people. Another area that we can look at is that competition piece. And this also leads us into another asset, right? Because we're not just adding competitors to compare scores. We're also given this AI analysis on those competitors and how they compare to this pool service here. Okay. So we've got Blue, Eds, and Mitchell. But again, we have the opportunity to regenerate this report. And so what I've always recommended and what worked for me was coming in, generating the report, and letting my prospect know that once I give you a nice proposal and you become my client, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and regenerate this quarterly, monthly, whatever the cadence is. And I've seen people use this for QBRs where they'll regenerate and they'll say, well, back in September, you were at 36, but now here we are in January 1st, Q1, and you're a 56. So we're showing growth while we're monitoring the competitors you told me to add in. Okay, so that's also a great way. Yeah, and it's a good asset for us to have. And I think it also it speaks to the value, right? So if I'm coming in my summary here, and let's just say I wanted that SWOT analysis to help open the door, as I mentioned earlier on the call, and I wanted to come in and say, hey, listen, I think that we have an awesome way of helping you here. I want to talk about those strengths. Let's talk about some of those threats. Oh, and by the way, why don't you tell me who your competitors are? We can run an analysis on them. And then, boom, there it is. And now we've got another piece to leverage to provide immediate value to, thus separating ourselves from everybody else and positioning ourselves more on the concentrated side of it. Okay. So that competition piece is really nice. But I do also feel that the business overview, again, customizable to your colors, your logo, so your standards. This is something that we can absolutely make on the fly. with businesses that we add into BuzzBoard based on the insights that we have. AI is helping us create this. And, you know, I do feel that this is a really strong area here because explaining the score is really, really important for us to convey to our prospects. And when we can do that in a simplified way, then all of a sudden, when we start talking about competitors here in this report, it makes sense to them. If they know how this was given, then now we know how these numbers were derived as well. But it doesn't really stop there. I do feel that when we start leveraging the business overview report or the BOR, not that it's boring or anything like that, we just call it the BOR. Customer segments, tell me about your customers, right? And so on the fly, we were able to segment their customers. Obviously homeowners with pools, but we got real estate agents and property managers as well, home warranty clients. So we might want to make sure that we're talking to these people too. I know the bulk of your business comes from here, but you could be leaving money on the table with these. And so what we've done is we've produced buying behaviors, customer needs and preferences piece here, and more importantly, value propositions. And so how does this really help us outside of sounding smarter and positioning us and all that, right? Well, this might have been one proposal, but look how much the proposal grew just by including this two segments here as well. And so what we're finding is that the propensity to build a bigger proposal is provided to us when we leverage an asset like this. Now, this is currently available as a PDF for download from the platform itself, or, you know, you can also go to the Chrome extension. Right down here, we've got our little area for reporting as well. I've got my little Zoom thing in the way there, but yeah, here we go. We've got the business overview report, Google Ads, competition, compact profile. So from here, you can absolutely get that reporting that you need to have. But when we're looking at something highly leverageable like this, I think it's extremely strong for us. And the
Phil, sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
On that point that you just made with the page 4 there, that's who they're currently speaking to. That's based on what the system is reading. Is that right? Or is that what their intention is?
That's what intention is. We don't know specifically who they're asking, but it would be up to me to say, hey, Mark, listen, talk to me about your customers. You know, based on what I'm looking at here, I've identified customers that you could or are or might be going after. Okay, just to get the conversation started. I've come up with 3 of them. Mark, you might be able to help me out with 2 or 3 more, right? So, but this is a good starting point for me. And what I've done with these customers is that we've segmented them, and ultimately we have the ability to create value propositions for each one. So who's the bulk of it? Where's it all coming from? The bulk of your business. If it's here, then, you know, we might be able to give you a lift just by talking to these people here. And guess what? These people get their information from a completely different source than these do, requiring another type of proposal, right? So I wish we could predict who they're going after. You know, we're pretty good at giving that analysis, and chances are really high that, they're probably talking to some already. But they might not have gone through this exercise as a business. To your earlier point, a lot of these businesses might not, they might not know what they know or what we know.
Exactly.
And so here's that SWOT analysis. That's I do like the way we present this. And again, some people are leaving this as a leave behind with a little business card. Hey, call me. Let's talk about this. I do like the fact that we include that digital state summary here into the mix, and we go into more detail when we start looking at the digital marketing spectrum that we're looking at. And then the product recommendations. Some people don't lead with this, obviously. This is not putting the cart before the horse per se, but this is highly customizable, and this is where your products and services come in. You could call it XYZ widget optimization, that's what you might call it at your company. Cool. It'll be reflective here. All of this is highly editable. I have a hard time with that word. And I'll show you what that looks like. Here's recommendations that we've made just based on the data. So again, AI is driving this, that I can download, copy to my clipboard. But here's the editing piece where I can start making changes inside from a title, the what, the so what, and the now what standpoint for every single one. Okay, and I can add in the recommended package right there as an optional and keep going. And I can even change the order of how this looks. So this is a nice feature that we've added into the mix. And it's exciting. We're getting a lot of great feedback, especially with this guy right here, this business overview report. You know, people have been asking for something like this, and now they're getting it. And there's a lot more, David, that we've got on the roadmap that's blowing me away. I know that.
Yep, absolutely. So just a time check, it's 10:45. Conversation is great. Mark, thanks for jumping in with questions. I've just posted, there's lots of ways if you want to continue the conversation, if you want one-on-one, not everybody wants to ask questions in a group format. I just posted into the chat a Calendly link. You know, have a look at your calendar, then go ahead and put something on our calendar through the Calendly link if you want to drill down deeper, ask questions in a one-on-one forum you don't want to ask in a group forum, and so on. I'm happy to set that up for you.
Awesome. And, you know, the focal point today was about a lot of the assets and how these lead to engagement and great stories around data. BuzzBoard, there's so much to this platform that's, you know, it's so valuable. I think the first area that I really, as a former marketer, was my ability to prospect and build that lead list, and would love to show you in you know, either on a one-on-one group setting. You know, I get really excited when it comes to the prospecting piece. So take David up on that. Okay, he did leave his Calendly link and set something else up for a demo or get the free trial. You know, once you do that, then yeah, absolutely. We'll walk you through the rest of the platform, and we'll make sure that you're on your way to using this platform. It's a game changer.
Yeah, if you want to get your hands on, like Philip says, in the free trial, go to the website, www.buzzboard.ai. Up in the top right, there's a free trial button. We don't ask you to provide any credit card info. You know, we're not going to automatically start billing you after 14 days or whatever. Just go in and register, no obligation, no credit cards. And then there's the opportunity to have an onboarding session with the team that Philip's a part of to get you, you know, up and productive right away quickly during the trial period. So that's an option for you as well.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we can call it a wrap there. Thank you, everybody, for joining. As I mentioned, I know some people joined late. We did record. So what we do is we do a little bit of post-production to clean it up and get it up on YouTube. You can email me, david@buzzboard.com, if you'd like a copy of that recording. I'll send you the link once it's done, usually within a day or so. We get that up on YouTube. So with that, I think we'll call it a wrap. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day. And then the rest of the week, enjoy your week.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep.